and welcome to the Sproutshaw College Healthcare webinar this evening. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lana Brar, and I am very happy to be your host this evening for our healthcare webinar. I am a director with Sproutshaw College, and I've had the pleasure of being in this position for the last 8 years and being with the college for a little over 15. Sproutshaw College has 16 locations throughout the beautiful province of British Columbia. And we were formed on the basis back in 1903 to give back to the communities that we live in and serve in providing education to the people from those communities. And tonight I am very pleased to be able to share with you some insights into our healthcare programs. Sproutshaw College was the first private training institution to offer the practical nursing program, and we're very proud to be able to continue to do that today. We have locations throughout the province that run this program. And tonight you're going to hear from our instructors, from our healthcare team lead, and also from students who've gone through both the practical nursing program and our healthcare assistant program. These are two programs that give back and train people in these very vital healthcare roles, as I said, to serve those communities. So as we begin tonight, I am very excited to introduce our first two speakers that will join us tonight, and where we get to learn about the healthcare assistant program and their experiences in the healthcare assistant program. First of all, we have Mary Fay joining us. Mary Fay is a recent graduate from Sproutshaw College in the HCA program, and she herself plans to enter the practical nursing program later in the year to continue her education and to growing in the healthcare field. She herself is also training in healthcare and in her current role, and she's excited to share with you tonight her experiences in the program. Mary Fay, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm doing good. A little tired, but good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Can you start by sharing with our listeners what brought you to the healthcare assistant program and decide to take it with Sproutshaw College?
Well, it started from, I guess, just a family of professionals, of healthcare professionals I grew up with, doctors and nurses. And I've avoided it for many, many years, but it just kept nagging at me and eventually pushed me into the health field where I guess it's always been there for me. I've always helped people out and it just kind of landed on my lap by accident. I went out to the community as a support worker and I got emergency calls and it was a natural instinct for me to help people. So that's how that kind of came up about. Somebody that was an emergency for me to go in and help.
Great.
I've been doing it ever since.
Wonderful.
So,
and what made you choose Sproutshaw College?
Well, after researching a lot of the local colleges in the lower mainland within my vicinity, like even all the way even to Victoria, because I did live on the island for a while. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that it has a longevity history. That I can literally trace it back. And if I really needed to just pinpoint a course, I could go back and it would still be there. And it's on longevity is what got me there to be in the first place. And I love the fact that its reputation has lasted that long. It is remarkable.
Yeah, we're very proud of our history. It's definitely what has grounded
Yeah.
us and what we refer back to even today when we look at the programming that we offer and the support that we give to our students. So I appreciate how the history is one of the reasons for bringing you to Sproutshaw. Now, when you were in the HCA program, did you have any courses that were your favorite?
Um, I I love the fact that the HCA has a curriculum that is all, there are hands-on, like it's not just all books. Like a lot of people can do books, like I'm a book person, but it helps if you can actually relate it to hands-on. And the fact that it's ongoing through the whole course, it's not just in the beginning or at the end, but it's all the way through each module. It's remarkable to have that. And that keeps just kind of instills it into your mind, how you can actually progress. And it shows you where you're kind of needing a little bit more to pay attention to. So that's really, I enjoy that part, all the lab course classes, I guess. The weekly, everybody's gonna hate it, exams, the test, if you actually was paying attention, I really enjoy those.
Yes.
I know that's a really weird thing to say, but I like the fact that you were tested not just at the beginning or the end of like most school years or a midterm, but you were on a weekly kind of, did you get this? And if you didn't, where can we help you?
Right.
And that included with the in-class lab works. Where can we help you? Did you understand how we got from A to B? Like, and I really enjoy that.
Great. Yeah, for those of you who are listening, the healthcare assistant program is a little over 7 months, and it's structured in a way where students are taking a 2-week course at a time. And throughout that 2-week course, as Mary Faye shared, there's lab skills that you're learning along the way. And then you're always able to test your knowledge and make sure that you're on track for program completion. You touched on it a little bit, Mary Faye, where you talked about how the instructors are supporting students in the program. Can you maybe share with us a little bit more how your students supported, or your instructors rather, supported you in successfully completing?
Well, if you needed any off hours, I mean, they were at our disposal really, with even after hours. And they were brave enough to give us their email. Some were even brave enough to give us their actual phone number. So that was really helpful. Like the response back was genuinely like within minutes. And that is better than even sitting next to somebody and having a silent section.
Sure. Yeah.
So those are really important when you have a nagging question that you just can't figure out the question and answer to, and you get it right off the bat. And that is helpful.
Yeah.
And they're willing to spend hours or even days with you to get it kind of instilled into your mind.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And those smaller class sizes, I think, really help to be able to make sure they have the time to give back to each of the students that might need a little extra support on one course or another.
The class ratio definitely was a big factor also for me choosing it. Like I've been in a class of 360. Not fun.
No, no. You feel like a number, whereas here you have a real direct connection to your instructors. Yeah, fantastic. And now you're currently working in the field. So how would you say that the program prepared you for employment after graduation?
Well, being in the field for as long as I've been now, for over 8 years, and putting the certification at the end of my experience, Sproutshaw just enforced what I wanted, to kind of put everything in a nice, neat package for me. I knew what I wanted to be. I knew how to do things, but I couldn't explain it if somebody had actually asked me to explain it in a little bit more detailed form. With Sproutshaw, that gave me a lot of confidence to be able to explain it more coherently and more consistently across the board to all of the trainees that I was training, which is really a good thing because you want consistency across the board in health field. That was really excellent part.
Great. And there are extra certifications that you get throughout the program. Did those assist you in being more employable after graduation?
Oh, yes. When you apply after the program, a lot of the long-term facilities actually really want somebody not just to have a healthcare assistant certificate, but a little bit more meat to their certificate, like whether it's medical administration, or it's a little bit more of elderly care and more long-term facilities, or it's to do a little bit of wound assessments or whatnot. Like those certificates you can take online are a breadth of education that you would probably get nowhere else, or you would have to pay a large amount of money to get into. But you were able to do them within your own time frame of the whole course. It was an open door, no time limit. It was on your own time, which was great, and I
Great.
really enjoyed that.
So once you finished the program, you had a complete
Yeah.
employment portfolio ready to
Oh yeah.
go, and you felt quite confident becoming the top of the list for
Oh yeah.
applicants searching for
Well,
employment.
my second job that I got now is because I did have such a thick portfolio. When they asked for a list of other certificates I had, I literally gave them 32. And
Wow.
that was like, and I gave it as a list, and they said, could you actually print this all out? And I literally opened up my Sproutshaw online, and they go, okay, we got it. Don't worry, don't print them out. Just don't print them out. That's a lot. So
Amazing.
that was really good. That came in really handy, and they were really impressed that the school allowed us to keep pushing ourselves forward more education without any barriers, and that
Yeah.
was remarkable.
I love that education without barriers.
Yeah.
That's it. That is exactly what we are all about, and providing students with those opportunities. So that's wonderful. Um, Anything else that you'd like to add, Mary Faye, for future HCA students?
Make sure that you take full access to those online courses.
Yeah.
Like those certificates, are daunting. They take a lot of hours out of your day and night, and even in your weekends, but they are worth every little bit of hours that you pay attention to them. And just because we are an HCA, and a lot of people think that's very narrow, we are more than just wiping and feeding. Every facility is so tweaked differently.
Mm-hmm.
And those certificates will help you stay on the top of the line instead of just another one in the field, if that makes any sense.
It
So I
makes
mean,
complete sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
literally stick out like a sore thumb.
great. Now you're looking at coming back to take the PN
Mhm.
program with us.
Yeah, yes, I am. I am
Good for
doing it.
you. Wonderful.
January 24th, I'm back in there again.
Fantastic. Well, we cannot wait to have you back in class in the program and to support you in furthering your education again. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Mary Faye.
Thank you.
Stick around if you can for the questions, but I know that you do
Yeah.
need to back off to work,
Yes.
and we want to make sure that they have all your wonderful
Well,
expertise.
thanks to Sproutshaw, my future it really is a cliche. It is much brighter. It really is.
That's what we hope for everyone. Thank you very much, Mary
Thank you.
Faye.
Have a good night, guys.
You too. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye-bye.
So next up joining us is also someone who has just recently graduated from our healthcare assistant program. We have Justine Gretzinger joining us. She recently graduated from the Vancouver location, and she's currently working as a private caregiver. For her, the most rewarding part has been being able to give back and to care for the many patients that she's been able to support, and for herself to grow from that experience. Justine, welcome. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So I'd love to hear from you as well. What brought you to the healthcare assistant program, and why you decided to move into healthcare.
Yeah, I have grandparents who have been in need of care for a little bit of time now. And so I've been helping them out the past few years. And I just really find it rewarding being able to be there for someone who needs your help and cannot otherwise help themselves. So that kind of directed me into wanting to get more in depth into the field.
Great. And how do you think the program has prepared you to do that, seeing as you're now working as a private caregiver?
Yeah, It definitely helped a lot. Like through the course, we had the practical sense of it, and as well as the theory, and that really prepared us for our preceptorship or our practicum, whatever you like to call it. And that practicum really helped kind of get your feet wet, and you were supervised, and it felt safe, and like you could do your job confidently by the so it prepared me well for sure.
Great. Now, you touched on it just there. As I said earlier when I was chatting with Mary Fay, the program is 7 months long. But within that program, you also have clinical experiences that take place right at the end of the theory portion of the program, and you have those 4 clinicals. Can you talk a bit about the clinical experiences and really how you got to practice or put into practice the skills that you learned in the program through those clinicals?
Yeah. So when we first started out during the clinical, our we were supervised by other healthcare assistants, and oversawn by uh, the nurses there as well, and they demonstrated the protocol in which it was done at their how it was done at their facility, and the what we've already learned during the year, but it was put into motion, and we were shown exactly how to do things. And then as we moved along throughout our clinical, we were allowed to do things ourselves and get our hands in there as well. And yeah, just it was a great experience, being able to do it that way, just because you weren't thrown in like sink or swim. It was like timed out, so you could feel confident in what you're doing, and that you're going to do a good job and help these people.
Great. So you could quickly see how being a HCA directly supports the clients that are in the facilities where you're working, whether you're working in a facility or in private care, such as you are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Many times students are hesitant about registering in the program. They know they want to enter healthcare, but they think, oh, is it really for me? What would you say to a student, a prospective student, if they were in front of you saying to you, oh, I'm not sure? Um, how would you encourage them to move ahead and take the program?
I would just probably say that it's so rewarding. Like I already mentioned before, just um, having like the knowledge and skill to be able to go into a place and help out any sort of individual who needs your help. Um, and it's well worth the training and the education to be able to get those experiences, because it makes you grow, not only in your practice, but as a person too.
Great. And you yourself are also looking to come back and to join our practical nursing program.
Yes, I hope to.
Good for you. When are you considering doing that?
Hopefully in the next year in the fall. Um,
Great.
yeah, I would like to.
And why are you choosing to move ahead in your education and become an LPN?
I just want to always continue to learn and grow, and this is a way of doing that. I thoroughly enjoy being a healthcare assistant, and enjoy working in healthcare, and I would like to, yeah, continue to grow and learn as much as possible.
Great. Anything else to add, Justine?
No, I don't think so. Just thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your experience in the program and your plans for the future. The same as Mary Faye, we really look forward to be able to supporting you on the rest of your educational journey and seeing you successfully graduate as an LPN. Please stick around if you can for the Q&A toward the end of the webinar tonight. Some students or prospective students may have some questions to ask you about HCA.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. So for those of you joining us tonight, you've just gained some insight into the healthcare assistant program. As we said at the outset, this program is 7 months in length. All of our programs at Sproutshaw College are accredited by PTIB, the Private Training Institution of British Columbia, and the Healthcare Assistant Program is governed under the BC CareAid Worker Registry. And all of our students who graduate for that program, they can apply for a registry number through the BC CareAid Registry, and they receive that registry number to then be able to work in the field following graduation. As you've heard from our 2 successful graduates, there are many opportunities to work in the field. One of our students is currently working as a healthcare aide in a facility. The other one is working in private care. So you have a lot of opportunities as a healthcare assistant graduate. And you heard from both of them how the program and the instructors really support students in successfully completing. Now we get to move on to our practical nursing program. This program is 18 months in length, and it is governed by the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, and it is created on the basis of the standards of practice for the BC Nurses and Midwives. And within that program, it's, as I said, 18 months, but it also includes a 15-week clinical experience and a 7-week preceptorship. Joining us tonight, our first guest speaker for practical nursing is Crystal Warner. She is our healthcare team lead, and she has many experiences with both programs. Crystal has been with Sproutshaw College since 2013, where she started as a nursing instructor and then later became a practical nursing coordinator. And now she supports the college as a whole, being the team lead. She has an acute care background, specifically in medical surgical nursing, and a true passion for healthcare. Good evening, Crystal. Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So, Crystal, can you talk a bit? We touched on it a little bit in the healthcare assistant program, but can you talk a little bit about what types of qualifications our instructors need to have for both of the healthcare programs we're discussing this evening?
Yes, for sure. So you mentioned the British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives. We call that BCCNM for short.
Yeah.
Because it's very long.
Yes.
And so they have to hold a license and registration with that governing body in order to be an instructor with us. They have to also have minimum 3 to 5 years of experience, and that can be in many different areas. We require instructors to teach different levels in the program, which come with specialties. So that experience in itself too is definitely great for instructors to have and to really highlight when they want to actually get hired. And our instructors also, upon hire, they need to complete certain things to be an instructor. Now, this is all paid for by Sproutshaw, which is fantastic. So one of those things is an instructor teaching credential. So something instructor diploma program, which is excellent program, something like that. So that they have to do that within the first couple of years of hire. Then there's a Sproutshaw instructor training that new staff go through as well. This includes a general orientation and also classroom and clinical training. And then there are some additional courses that we also require of our instructors, such as a SPECO program, which is Student Practice Education Core Orientation. It's what students and faculty have to have in order to go into working into the health authorities as they take clinical groups out. And then there are other courses as well, including cultural awareness training and things like that as well, that our instructors do.
Great. So, I mean, our instructors have, many years of experience in different areas, as you said, and we try to tailor those instructors to the content that they are teaching or assign them to classes based on the experiences they have, so that it's a rich experience for the students and they can share all of their knowledge and, examples that they've gained while working in the field.
Exactly.
Yeah. For HCA, we talked about the lab and the skills that the students learn. And as I mentioned, for the practical nursing program, there's the 15-week clinical experience and preceptorship. And again, for that program, we have to prepare the students with the skills training in order to be able to put it into practice. All of our campuses are outfitted with a practical nursing lab or a healthcare lab that serves both of these programs. Can you share with our listeners tonight the types of equipment they can expect to be able to get to practice on when they're working in those labs?
Yes, absolutely. So all of our labs are actually designed to mimic long-term care sites and hospital settings as well. So you'll see there's some campuses that have each bed is kind of both of those, and then other ones that have, a separate little long-term care area and a separate acute care hospital setting area as well. So in those environments, we have obviously the beds, the hospital type beds. We have different types of mannequins in the lab as well. We have the full adult size mannequins, we have pediatric mannequins, newborn mannequins, and we also all have a maternity mannequin that actually has a heartbeat and actually gives birth electronically, which is really kind of a neat feature for when we're doing that in our program. And then you'll also see like the regular hospital curtains. You'll see the bedside tables, all the over bed tables stuff as well. You'll also see a nursing or charting station in that area. For HCAs coming in, you're going to see personal care items, basins, hygiene products, items to take vital signs, like blood pressure cuffs and stethoscopes, ambulation equipment such as walkers, wheelchairs, and then lifts. We have a variety of lifts as well, like for transferring and oxygen equipment and stuff like that. And then as you go into more like deeper skills in the nursing program, you're going to come across different equipment, wound care items, various dressings and things like that, tube feed pumps, blood glucose monitoring machines.
Wide array. Yeah.
So I could go on and on and on
you
about
could.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
But as you go through the levels in the nursing program, there's different equipment that is needed for that. Really, and you'll notice that, just looking at all the campuses, each campus will have a little bit of a different equipment because of the area that they're in. When we try to mimic the sites that we're going to. And so types of equipment that we have in those labs should mimic the equipment that's in those labs.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense for learning.
Oh, for sure. And I think that that's a really important point to stress, that these labs really do mimic the settings that they will then go and do their clinical training in. And so it's their safe space to learn, to practice, to make mistakes, because it's really in that setting where they get to hone that skill that they then go out and put into practice. And for me as a director, I really find that it's the clinical experience that shapes the student in the program. Yes, the theory, but you really see the nurse that they're going to become once they return from each of the clinical experiences. And as I said, there's the 15 weeks, which ends up being, 4 clinical experiences, one after each level, plus the final preceptorship, where they really get to prove their knowledge as a nurse. The program is also very focused on community and giving back to the community. Can you talk about that a little bit and the importance of that?
Yes, I honestly think the healthcare field in general is giving back to the community,
That's true. Yes, yeah, yeah,
for
very
sure.
true. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the PN program really has a passion for giving back. I think that's the nature of healthcare, right? Like that's a lot of times why, we just heard from the two panelists earlier that they want to give back, right? And that's something that's a passion. But specifically in the nursing program, our third level is actually all community focused, which is fantastic. And during that clinical is where we really put that into play. So it's a 2-week clinical out in the community. We go out there, we do community teaching. Sometimes we'll go into schools when we're able, we'll go into daycare centers, and we'll do some health promotion teaching. We'll volunteer at sites such as the food bank, the People's Pantry Food Recovery Society, things like that, and give back that way by connecting. Some campuses do wellness packs, so they gather supplies from the community and then, go and hand them out to the less fortunate populations. And then something really cool that I know a lot of campuses are doing is a give back project. And so they're told, students are really given not a lot of information about this. They're just told, these are the amount of hours you need to go give back to your community. You choose how you want to do that. And then at the end of that clinical, we come together and they show pictures and they talk about their stories and what they did. And it's just really, really heartwarming to see them to be able to choose what they want to do for that. And, honestly, too, as a college, I think that we lead by example when it comes to giving back. For instance, earlier this year, we just recognized and supported and rose awareness for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Yeah.
Raising money and things like that. So I really think that each campus has specific things that they do alone, and then things as a college that we do as well to give back. So I think it's really a core value, I think, of not just the nursing program, but the college as a whole.
Yeah, you're true. Yeah, it's very true what you say about healthcare in general, giving back to the community. We heard it from HCA. You're talking about it now in PN. Sproutshaw community is one of our core values that we are founded on. And so it's really important for us to represent that in each of our campuses and then in the programs that we have as well. Anything else you'd like to add about the practical nursing or HCA programs that we maybe didn't touch on already?
I've been, as you know, it was Sproutshaw for a while. I started as an instructor and then I was a coordinator. I see so much growth, and it's rewarding, like starting as an instructor. If there's any instructors, potential instructors listening, I just think it's such a rewarding experience to watch students, go from, really early on to, full on nurses or full on HCAs out there working. It's so rewarding as an instructor, and as students, you're so supported, and it's such a positive experience. And it is what you make it. A lot of people have friends, best friends from the program that they're still in touch with. It's just such a little, it's a Sproutshaw family. That's how I would say.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that and for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
As Crystal touched on, in the programs themselves, we form almost these little communities in HCA, in our cohorts of HCA and our practical nursing programs. Our students in those programs are supported by the instructors and the teams that we have at the campus, but they're also equally supported by the students who are in that program with them. And I often say to my new students that the one resource that they aren't going to find on any course outline or any book list are the students that are in that program with them. And being able to share that experience is really an enriching one. And we see many of our students start off in HCA, go and work in the field, return to us for LPN, go and work in the field, and then even return to us to become instructors. And so it's lovely that we have that 360-degree experience with our students and our alumni. Next up tonight, we have Jennifer Kelman joining us. Jennifer is one of our practical nursing coordinators from our Kamloops location, and we're very excited to have her joining us this evening. She graduated from the University of New Brunswick in 2007 with a Bachelor of Nursing, and she spent 12 years bedside nursing in several specialty areas, including cardiac, high observation surgical unit, and has a passion for much of her time spent in labor and delivery. And this is just one example of the instructors that we have on our teams. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So as a practical nursing coordinator for the guests on tonight, can you talk a bit about your role in the program and how you work to support the students once they're in the program?
Sure. So as the PNC, you start kind of with us. And we support you through, like we're very student-centered. We have very small class sizes. This allows our instructors to better coordinate with our students, better connect. We know them by name. They're not a number in a classroom, for example, in a university that you go to. My instructors are always available on site for students to ask questions before or after class or during a break. We can clarify or provide guidance and maybe direction, maybe don't quite give you the answer, but the route in which to take to find the answer for yourself. You can always, if you're struggling, reach out to us for additional support tools. There's always lots of internet world we know can be very big and daunting, and there are some excellent resources out there. And so we can kind of direct you in that kind of route to find those ones. So I can speak for the Kamloops campus where I live, but we have open lab time practice where students can just come in and practice on their own time extra if they feel like it. Because the lab needs to be scheduled, I sort of schedule that, and then you know when you can kind of go. And then certain courses and specific times, the instructor will actually lead an additional review day. Kind of show up if you'd like to. It's not mandatory, but join us.
Yeah. And, thank you for sharing that. I didn't include that in my notes tonight, but that's a really key piece is and we've talked about support along the way. I mean, we've asked our HCA students the support they received, Crystal, about the support that our instructors have. But it's important for the students in the PN program to know how well they're supported as well. And those additional tutorials that we offer outside of the regular structured class time, I think really can make a difference for a student, especially if, maybe they're struggling with a certain topic or they're nervous about an upcoming exam that has, maybe a higher expectation in terms of outcome. Knowing that they have those tutorials to lean on, or they have you as the PNC that they can come to and say, you know what, Jennifer, I just don't get this concept, or I just need a little bit of extra time. And you being able to give that to them, I think has a lot of value in the program.
It's true. My door is always open.
Yeah.
When I'm in a meeting.
Yes. Yeah. They have almost, direct contact with you, which is lovely. Yes. Yeah. As the PNC, you also get to talk to students right at the beginning of the program. And I think that conversation with the students about setting up the expectations in the program before they begin is really important. What do you share with students right at the beginning about what they can expect and what expectations they need to follow to be successful in the program?
Sure, definitely. So leading into someone coming into the program, I do what's called a PN interview, where we sit down. Recently, it's been more in this online format, but I do like it more in person. And we talk about, this is just a series of questions, kind of like an interview, but it just allows me to communicate and ensure that there are the expectations of this program. It is a condensed program for 18 months, and so it can be quite challenging for some people. And so I like to set those expectations up right away. Just this is what it's going to look like. These are your levels. You're going to have clinicals after each level. We talk about the overview of the program. We talk about some key policies and kind of set up those expectations. I like to just chat with them and find out what, if they're planning to work through the program, what that looks like, what kind of outside obligations they have, just to ensure that that level of commitment that they need to do is possible with the support they have in their life.
Yes, yeah, great. And what do you find is the most rewarding part of the program for students, or maybe that students have shared with you along the way?
I think, well, my favorite part, and I think theirs, is what I call those light bulb moments that you see.
Yeah.
So I often took students to level 4 clinical, and I always felt like they were walking around with little light bulbs above their head, and then they saw something and their eyes would get big. That's what you taught me. That's what we practiced in lab. And here
Yeah.
now I see and I'm doing it. And it just kind of, you sort of see those connections being made. And I think for them, as well as me as an instructor and coordinator now, that is a very rewarding part, to just be able to see that while they have our support, while they have the staff support, while they're a student, they have instructor support, clinical instructor support, PNC support, making those light bulb moments before they're out on their own.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that you're ever truly on your own.
Not really. Now, in the program, there's the 4 clinicals and the final preceptorship, and we heard from Crystal about what students can expect from the level 3 clinical. Can you maybe share what students can expect from the level 1, 2, and 4 clinical, and then ultimately their preceptorship?
Sure. So level 1 clinicals are typically in a long-term care facility. We focus on personal care, feeding, general day-to-day care of a patient, also making those personal connections, and we nurse the person, not the body in the bed. And so, forming those connections and making that, again, real life, those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Level 2 is a similar clinical, usually in a long-term care facility, but we add medication administration onto this one.
Yeah.
So our students are now kind of juggling or managing both the care, personal, and feeding, as well as some medication administration and all that goes along with the importance of that. And then our level 4 clinical is in an acute care facility, typically on a medical or surgical unit in a hospital. And we're focusing on just that, the acute care. So the patient that's coming in for a procedure or an illness, hopefully going to get better and then be discharged home.
Great. Anything else you'd like to add for students that are considering entering the program?
I think it's just really important to follow your dream and know that you're supported along the way. We truly care about these students, and even after, I love to follow up with them or hear what they're doing. Lots of our students, I have a couple students, Caitlin being one of them, who was a previous student and is now was a preceptor for one of my level 4s in their final preceptorship. And I just think that's so rewarding. And you see that progression, like Crystal was saying, that progression from maybe not too sure if this was exactly the right decision for me, to growing and realizing this is what they were truly meant to do. And I just love supporting the students to do that. And
yeah. Well, that's so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that and for helping to transition to Caitlin. This is a true example of that 360-degree relationship with the student, and watching our students graduate and then continue to give back in the field, and then also give back as educators themselves. So next on our panel tonight, we have Caitlin Edge, and as Jennifer shared, she's a recent graduate also of our Kamloops location from 2020. Caitlin spent the majority of her school career working in the healthcare field as an HCA. So she was working as an HCA in the program, and then following graduation, she began working at Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops and continuing to work in long-term care. She has recently also been a preceptorship for one of our students. Please join me in helping to welcome Caitlin Edge to the panel tonight. Hello, Caitlin, how are you?
Hi, Lena. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Of course.
So Caitlin, can you share what brought you to the practical nursing program and why you chose Sproutshaw?
It was actually a friend. So initially, for a couple of years, I was trying to get into the RN program through Thompson Rivers University here in Kamloops, which
Mhm.
is an extremely competitive program. All nursing programs now, regardless, LPN or RN, are extremely competitive.
They are.
And I just wasn't getting through. So my friend's like, "Why don't you try this? Like, I've heard good things about the school," and I did my research.
Mhm.
And I just really loved what Sproutshaw was going to offer. And I said, this, like, just for me, it gets my foot in the door. And
Mhm.
maybe this is where I stop my career and I'm happy here. Maybe I continue on or I branch out into other specialties. But this gets me started. And that's exactly what it's done. And I am so happy that I went with Sproutshaw and especially with the Kamloops campus. I cannot say enough good things about the instructors there, both Jen and Crystal being one of them,
Yeah.
or getting two of them. um, but that was, yeah, it was that friend kind of giving me the nudge to be like, hey, look into your other options and realizing that there is so much more to the LPN scope than what everybody assumes. Because everyone assumes that an LPN, especially in acute care setting, does the personal care, the bum wiping, all the grunt work, so to speak. In an acute care setting, everybody does that grunt work. You can barely tell the difference between an LPN and an RN. I have patients at the bedside that will ask and they won't know the difference until they read my name tag. And they're like, "Oh, you're a practical nurse." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And it's like, they don't know the difference, whereas you used to be able to really tell the difference.
True.
So that helped. Understanding that scope helps make that final decision to go with Sproutshaw.
Great. One of the questions actually that's popped up in chat, and I just want to jump to it right now because you've got some direct experience with it, is can you work while you were in the PN program? Were you able to do that and sustain both work and school?
My soul may have died a little bit, but yes, you can. I worked more than full time through school. Originally, I was working in retail as well as teaching my writing lessons and running my own business through the first 2 levels of the nursing program, just because I wasn't an HCA at that point. And then after that second clinical, you're able to get your HCA certificate and register with the curated registry. So then I worked full time doing a full night line in a
Wow.
long-term care facility all the way through school, including through all my clinicals and preceptorship. It was difficult, but you can do it, and you gotta manage your time. That's really what it comes down to. Anybody that's considering working through school, just don't forget about your self-care. I had to tell myself, take that day off. It's okay. You can walk away from the schoolwork for a few hours, walk away from work for the day, and focus on yourself because it makes the biggest difference. And I found that working as a carried through the nursing program made me a better nurse
True.
because I was able to actively practice skills. I was able to actively participate in that goal planning and the patient care, both in a long-term care and acute setting that you don't get unless you're in clinical. So
It,
it made a big difference for me personally
yeah,
to
yeah.
have that experience.
Yeah, and that's very true. Many of our students, as you said, once they complete up until level 2, they then register with the BC Carried Registry. They work part-time in that field while they're going through the program. We also have other students who just simply choose to not work at all in the program. So it's really quite varied, right? It depends on the individual student. It depends on how they're able to manage that time and maintain that focus that's necessary to be successful in the program. But both are definitely doable.
100%. And regardless if you were initially thinking of a nursing career or not, this program gives you the opportunity to kind of test it. Even if you decide while you're at the end of the program or halfway through that it's just not what you were thinking it was, that's okay. And then the instructors in the college helps you on a different path if you choose to go to a different path.
Right.
Or you can have that sit down conversation and be like, where are you at? What are you feeling? why are you thinking this may not be the path for you?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I love about Sproutshaw is they're so supportive regardless of what decisions you're making.
Yeah, thank you for including that too. We've tried to touch on that quite a bit throughout tonight. And it's, easy for myself or one of our instructors or the team lead to say how supportive we are, but to hear that really from one of our graduates and students who've gone through the program, I think it, holds so much more meaning. You yourself had a healthcare program going into the program, but as I know, and I'm sure you had in your class, many students come into the program without any healthcare experience. Did you see that in your cohort as well, that there was a real variety of experience coming into the program?
Big time. We had people that had never even considered healthcare or did it on a whim because it looked like a good course and it paid well,
Yeah.
and they ended up loving it.
Yeah.
You get such a variety, and that's okay. Like, I initially wanted to be a veterinarian, and that's where my career was heading.
Yeah.
And then life happens and changed that, and that's where I ended up in nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So would I change it? No, I would never. I would stay where I am. I love it.
Yeah.
It is where I'm supposed to be, but you don't have to be. You don't have to have always had a wish to be in the medical field or a nursing like background want or anything like
Yeah.
that. You can literally be anybody and join this program.
Yeah, great. Just to speak to that a little bit more for those of you who are with us tonight, the program itself has 4 levels, and it's good for you to know that each level ladders on the previous one that you completed. So in level 1, it's really giving you that foundational knowledge to support you as you progress through the rest of the program. And then level 2 builds on that foundation. So because it's structured that way, you don't need healthcare experience to enter the program. What you do need is you need a passion for giving back. You need a passion for wanting to care for people. And you need some qualities that will make you a caring person in the field of nursing. But the rest, the theory, the skills, we'll train you along the way while you're in the program.
And there's a lot of self growth too, just on that note. You learn how to become that person, how to become that caring individual,
Yeah.
and how to care about others' needs. You may be a nice person, you may have those minor qualities, but the program shapes you to be that nurse. So it's not like you need that as your baseline. It's you grow into that person.
You grow into that. So true. I see it with every cohort we have, students growing and changing along the way. So that's a really important point. Thank you for bringing that up. The program, now students, once they complete the program, they still need to write the board exam. How would you say the program prepares you for the board exam, and what additional support did you get from the school to help you with that exam?
There was a lot of additional support. When you come out of your 4th level clinical, you spend a week back in class talking about getting ready for your preceptorship as well as that licensing exam. And they give you additional study tools, access to practice national exams, additional texts. They give you as much information as they possibly can. And then same thing when you're done with your preceptorship, you spend another week kind of going over all of that and you review a lot of the practice exams. And in that last week, you can take that additional time with your instructors to be like, hey, I really want to focus on this subject because it's in one ear out the other. I'm still not getting it.
Sure.
So you can take that time. They are incredibly supportive of that. The national exam is scary. You talk to even RNs, and we compare like our licensing exam questions. Not that we remember them very well, but it's extremely similar. So regardless of who you're talking to, you're gonna feel that stress, but that's okay. You're gonna walk out of there happy that you finished, not knowing if you passed or failed because they don't tell you that, because that would just be way too easy and nice of them.
Yeah.
They got to add that little bit of stress on the end, but no, Sproutshaw is incredibly supportive with the licensing exam, and even afterwards they check in with you, ask you how it went. how did you do? Do you think you passed?
Yeah.
Any questions? And so it's nice. They're very supportive.
Yeah, you're a lifetime student of Sproutshaw, so you know for life you can walk into any of our campuses and receive the same continued support even after graduation. Now, after graduation and you've passed the board exam, there's different licensing that you need to go through in terms of the licensing process. Can you speak to that a little bit, just so students know what to expect once they've passed that board exam and graduated from the program?
Prior to graduating, you have to apply for the licensing exam as well as your provisional license. And that gives you the ability to practice while you're waiting to write your exam. Of course, there are lovely fees attached to that. And then following your exam, depending on when you graduate in the year, you will either have a prorated license rate based on how many months are left in the year, or you will end up paying your full year worth of licensing fees.
Great.
And unfortunately, we have to have that.
Yes, it's so important. Anything else you'd like to add or share with future students in the PN program?
Expect the unexpected and be open to learning and self-growth. I think those are the biggest things. And don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is stupid, even though you may feel like it is at that time. It really isn't. It's a learning opportunity and it's a learning curve for everybody that's in that program. Nobody is walking in there already knowing what they're stepping into. They may act like it, but they really don't. So don't trust them.
Thank you very much for sharing that message, Caitlin, and for joining us tonight. We wish you all the best in your career as an LPN, and I know that you're planning on possibly bridging to the RN program, so good luck to you in that, and thank you for continuing to give back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have a couple minutes for some questions. If you have them, please pop them in the chat and we will answer those. Looks like we've got one right out of the gate. For the preceptorships, are they arranged by the college or the student, and do students find their own placements? Jennifer, would you be able to touch on that and answer that question?
Sure. Yes. So that kind of varies depending on the location, the campus you take. It sort of depends on the other colleges and universities around that are also vying for spots. But I can speak to what happens in Kamloops, and we do sort of ask students a preference of an acute care or a long-term care site, and then we do try to match them with their preferred site. It can't always be guaranteed, depending on, like I said, if there's true students there as well. It depends on the facilities and how many preceptorships they can take on a certain unit. But we find the placement for you, but we do sort of try to take your preference maybe into consideration.
Yeah, great. Next up, we have when you bridge into the PN program, where and how long is training? Are you wondering about bridging into the PN from HCA or bridging into RN? Bridging from HCA. So for bridging from HCA to PN, we have many students who do this. If they have the 600 hours of experience, then they can enter our PNA program. And we usually have 3 to 4 starts for that program throughout the year in the various locations. It allows students to take an introductory level to bridge them into PN, and then they join at level 3 with the existing PN students. So there is options for students wanting to bridge from HCA to PN. If you have any further questions about either the PN program or the HCA program, please feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us at 310 Higher, and one of our admissions advisors will be happy to answer your questions. I thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope that we gave you some insights into the different healthcare programs that we offer at Sproutshaw College. You got to hear from our students and from our instructors the level of support that you can expect by being one of our students. And we look forward to welcoming those of you who are joining us online tonight at our many campuses across the province. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.